Hello, welcome back to the studio here at France 24. It's now time to get a French press review, a roundup of what the French newspapers are saying this morning. For that, I'm joined in the studio by Elena Casas-Montanes. Good morning to you,
morning.
Elena. So, the big news this morning, the Eurozone crisis summit in Brussels. What are the papers making of that?
The plan to save the euro, that's the headline on Les Echos, the business paper, and it's the only subject really the papers are talking about. Some of the details we had this morning came out a bit late for this morning's papers, of course, but they know most of what they were expecting to happen, so they're focusing on the recapitalisation of banks and what that might cost. Now, on the front of Les Echos, they've got 8 portraits of the leaders who were most keenly involved in last night's all-night talks, and they say that really they all had their own domestic political concerns at heart. That's what was really important in getting to these negotiations. Angela Merkel, for example, they've got a little profile in there saying that if she didn't have the support of a vote in the Bundestag yesterday that gave her the impetus to push forward, we might never have got these negotiations.
So yes, there's a lot of politics going on behind the scenes there. Angela Merkel, not the only one with a political crisis, perhaps nearly brewing back home.
No, Silvio Berlusconi is hanging by a thread. His career is hanging by a thread, the paper says. Of course, he had to come to a last-minute decision yesterday on a pension agreement with his former ally, now kind of rival, the right-wing politician Umberto Bossi, without which Berlusconi wouldn't have had any kind of economic deal to offer the rest of the leaders in Brussels. As it was, what he's offered them isn't very convincing, and the Italian press is actually speculating that he might be set to resign in a few months' time. They say he might have made a secret promise about that, and that they might be calling fresh elections in Italy. Of course, this is also a domestic political issue here in France, the Eurozone crisis. The paper says Sarkozy is really trying to use it as an attempt to prove to the French public that he's a decision-making, strong president, to try and use this against his rival François Hollande.
Yeah, of course, presidential election coming up in 2012 here in France. OK, Le Figaro, more worried, though, aside from the politics, about how markets are going to react to this deal.
They've got no politicians on their front page. They've just got traders here kind of chewing their pens and fingers in anxiety about what this deal might produce. They say we've got to wait until the markets open this morning to find out if these talks last night have actually achieved anything, because that's what matters. And in their editorial, they say this is an inevitable step towards more economic federalism in Europe. This is bound to lead to an European finance ministry, they say, and more joint policy making. So we're going to have to get used to that new reality.
Yeah, we're hearing a lot about this possible new political restructuring of Europe stemming from the debt crisis. Indeed, the French newspaper Libération, they're looking at that, and they're covering that with a rather dramatic image on their front page, aren't they?
Yes, they're burning the EU flag on their front page today. They're not very optimistic about the possibility of economic federalism. They say that if we're going to impose on Greece and other southern European countries how they're going to rule their economies, then basically we already have economic federalism. We're already moving towards a United States of Europe. But they are not very positive about this possibility.
No, in their headline they're saying basically that the somersaults or the chaos, really, so one way or the other, make or break. Yes. OK, other papers more concerned about what this could mean for European taxpayers rather.
Yes, the plan that European leaders are missing is the headline on La Tribune. Now, the plan they're talking about that European leaders don't have is one to actually restart growth. They say this is just going to mean more expense for taxpayers, higher unemployment, higher taxes, and with all of these austerity measures, the order of the day across Europe, we don't quite know where the money is going to come from to recapitalise banks, where states are going to get more taxes from, because everyone's going to see their economic prospects collapse.
OK, and briefly, if we can, finish on a rather gloomy note. Le Parisien saying the downward spiral is well underway.
Yep, they've got VAT is going up as a headline. They also say inside unemployment is already well on the rise in France. 26,000 extra people have signed on here in just the last month. And France's biggest car maker announced yesterday they're going to send 6,000 jobs to Brazil.
Oh, so plenty there to look on the bright side. Thanks very much indeed for bringing us the front pages of the French newspapers. That's Elena Casas-Montanes there.